Roslyn Mould, pleasure to have you on the podcast. Great to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me on here.
My pleasure. And it's great to see you again. We obviously saw each other yesterday for World Humanist Day. Did you have a good World Humanist Day?
Yes, I did. I mean, thanks to Central London Humanists and Association of Black Humanists for organizing the program. And yeah, we hope to see more of that. It was exciting to meet so many humanists from around the world talking about, our challenges, our issues, and our joys and successes. And yes, it was really good meeting. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was great, yeah, and it was great to have you as our keynote opening speaker and telling everyone about all the great work of Humanists International. I wonder, for our podcast audience, could you just explain what Humanist International is and your main areas of work?
So Humanists International is the biggest international body for non-religious people around the world. And it is in over 121, we have over 121 member organizations in 60 countries around the world so far and counting. And yes, it's been over 70 years since the organization was formed in 1952, and where they came together to form the Amsterdam Declaration. And that was also revised in 2002. And the last one has been revised again in 2022 last year. And yeah, we hold a lot of programs and also campaigns, not only to highlight and create awareness about humanism, promoting humanism and also humanists, but also to defend the rights of humanists and human rights for everyone around the world. Yes.
That's great. And can you explain the Amsterdam Declaration and what was included in the update in 2022?
Well, yes. So over the years, it's always trying to get something that is relevant to the times. So in 1952, back then, the organization was called the International Humanist and Ethical Union. It's a mouthful. And over, in recent times, we decided to rebrand and to, catch up with the modern ways of doing things. The simpler, the better. Less is more, and yeah, so we changed the name from IHEU to Humanists International High or HI, and also the youth section, which was International Humanist and Ethical Youth Organization, to Young Humanists International, simply put. And also it's highly representative of us as humanists, what we are now, back from the way it was defined in 1952. And what we did was to add to the Amsterdam Declaration, what it was in 2002, to add to that, to how we're beginning to view issues, social issues. When it comes to race, when it comes to gender, when it comes to sexual orientation, all those inclusive ideas and ideas of diversity were added to it. A lot of what is going on in terms of secularism and how democracy has become an even more important issue of late, given that there are a lot of conservatives and right-wing forces around the world, in parts of Europe, in the United States, and in Africa, Asia, around the world, there's been this push for the right. And so this is about time, and it's infringing upon the rights to democracy, the rights to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of religion and belief. And it's even more important that we had those things included in the Amsterdam Declaration. So yes, there's a lot more that we did to emphasize and to make it more specific on what we expect and how we would like to live our lives now and define ourselves as humanists today.
Fantastic. And what are your main campaigns at Humanists International currently?
Humanists International has been doing so much work. Way before I became board member, the previous boards, I'm always going to be proud of them for what they've done and built for us as a foundation for us to continue now. And now there's so much we are even doing than ever before. Not only, I mentioned about membership. Membership has really increased, and we intend to even increase it further, especially for countries where it's not really free. You don't feel free to come out or to live your life as a humanist. We believe that there's a humanist everywhere in the world. It's just a matter of trying to let them know that there's an international community where they can be part of. So we are working a lot on membership. We also have the Freedom of Thought report, which has become such an important document. It just started as an idea by one of our staff members, in 2012, I believe. And today it's, the United Nations, the governments of the United States, the UK, Netherlands, so many other countries are now looking to that report as the source of data when it comes to freedom of religion and belief, especially for non-religious people around the world. So it's become something that we look up to, and we want to continue on that path. And we want to encourage people to contribute to the report so that we get more accurate figures and data, information on what's going on in each country around the world, regardless of whether it's highly religious or not, and to know what level that people get to enjoy their freedom of religion and belief. So we are working more on that, and we continue to launch it every year around November. We also have, very importantly, the Humanists at Risk campaign, which has been going on in the last couple of years, which has also become, it just started as a good idea, and so many lives have been saved through Humanists International that people have had to flee, and when they needed help, they couldn't find it in any other part of the world and any other organization but Humanists International were the ones who were able to come to their aid for them to flee from persecution, how do you call it? Threats of imprisonment or even death. So we have a lot of people who have been able to flee. We've been able to facilitate for them to gain asylum in more progressive countries, I would say, and also to be able to live more sustainable, fulfilling lives, which is also a goal and a new policy even for Humanists International. So unfortunately, we are still working on some cases, and finding out that my own friend, somebody I met through all this activism and all this quest to promote humanism, since we were, when I started having these positions in the youth section, Mubarak Bala is the Humanist Association of Nigeria president, and I was at the time the president for the Humanist Association of Ghana. We met on so many platforms. We got to know each other. We became friends, and to find out that just when he was married and just had a baby, he was arrested and detained for speaking on his own accounts or on social media about his non-belief. And today he's in jail for 3 years now and has been sentenced for 24 years imprisonment. And Nigeria is just 3 countries away from me here in Ghana. And it's really amazing that you could be talking to one person, and the next minute the person's freedom of movement, freedom, it's just taken away from him or her. So I can see that how close it gets to whom, that it could affect any of us at any time. And that's why I feel more proud of what Humanists International is doing in terms of helping humanists at risk, because what had happened to Mubarak could have happened to any of us, and he's still in jail, and we are still fighting very, very hard, along with so many other volunteers, the staff, everyone, the board. We're taking these issues very seriously. There's also some others from Sri Lanka, and even one of our very own board members now has been, under a threat. He has been receiving death threats. That is Dr. Leo Igwe, from Nigeria as well. And so, we take all these issues very, very seriously. From cases we get from the Middle East, Africa, Asia, we get over 100, almost 200 cases every day every year, with people asking for our help to either flee where they are, or sometimes they just need not financial support, and sometimes even more importantly, they need social support, not money as such. And so we need to come together, especially those of us who are a bit more privileged, to help those who don't have it. Humanists International has been involved in so many campaigns. We have the advocacy sector, the advocacy department, where we have Elizabeth O'Casey, our advocacy officer, who's been doing tremendous work representing Humanists International at the United Nations. We are now holding a vice chair position on the NGO Committee for Freedom of Religion and Belief, which is a very, very big deal. And we are very, very proud of the work she has done for us and how far she has taken Humanists International to be that recognized in such a huge institution and an organization like the United Nations. A lot of the issues that we are facing in when a lot of these groups in member organizations are campaigning for women's rights, for children's rights, for gay rights, for any racial issues, issues of abortion and all these things, that these things are taken seriously. We document them, and then we are able to present them when given the opportunity at places like the United Nations and other relevant international bodies, especially those that speak on human rights. So yes, we've been doing a lot of work there, and to know that your country, your member organization, your voice is being heard across the world, at state level, with all these representatives of the various governments around the world are hearing what is actually going on the ground. So I also commend not just the staff and the board, but especially to our members and our member organizations. And we encourage people to come and join. If you're starting a small group, Central London Humanists, the Association of Black Humanists, they're all in the UK, but they're all doing something special here and there. And we encourage them, more people to form local groups. You could even have groups in your school or, in your community or something. And then, join with Humanists International. We need more minds that come together, more like-minded people like us. The more we can do better. We also have humanist professionals. There are so many groups, especially in the UK. We know there's Humanist Society of Scotland. A few years ago, we tend to have the highest number of humanist weddings than any other part of the world. And so we know that, it's something that is they have great demand for, even from religious people. They would like to have something more meaningful to celebrate their day, whether it's a wedding, a funeral, or something. So we are going beyond just catering to the humanist community, but catering to anybody else whose values align with ours. And so, we're doing more training in those sectors, and also in parts of the world where humanists are a minority, like in Africa, Asia, Latin America, or South America. Yes. So these are a few of what Humanists International is doing. And there's so many things coming up, and you will definitely hear about it. Yeah.
There's so much you guys are doing, and it's all incredibly impressive, but obviously sad to hear about some of the cases that still persist. And I agree. I think it's not just the more groups and more people who associate with being humanist, the more we can do. It's also, it normalizes it, particularly in some of these countries that you mentioned, where it's still quite a new idea. But I'm interested to know your own background a little bit. What is your, did you have a religious background, and what was your route to humanism like?
Wow, yes. It's always, interested when I find myself talking again and again about it, because the more I talk about it and also reflect, I'm also so happy to be in where I am, like now as a humanist. Even though it's been 15 years now, I've been identifying as an atheist, as a humanist. But it's always amazing when I talk about it. Yes, I grew up in Ghana. I was born and bred here. And Ghana is a highly religious country. It's 99% now, or 95% religious. That's how religious it is. Everything is affected, or is influenced, or is inspired by religion somehow. Your schooling, your whole society, your whole community, everything you do, before you eat, before you go to school, if you are at work, if you are even going to any party, a wedding, a funeral, it's all religion everywhere. And people are it's become part of our language, people cannot understand how you can live your life without religion. I was raised Catholic, I was baptized in a Catholic parish. My mother was Catholic and my dad is Anglican. And I don't know why they decided, usually families would decide that you should take your father's religion, but somehow maybe my dad was just okay with it. I've never had a conversation with him, but yeah, I was baptized Catholic and I attended Catholic schools from primary school, junior high school, through to senior high school. Senior high school, I went to Holy Child School, which is set up or built, almost, 80 years ago by the British. And so it's a very old school. My grandmother went to school there. My mother went to school there. My and I and many of my cousins went to school there. It's a very good school. But, so the indoctrination has just been everywhere and throughout my life. Even in high school was when I also got closer to some of my classmates who were Christian, but not Catholic. And so I got introduced into the evangelical faith. And I did start learning how to pray and how to worship in the more evangelical ways, and so I did at a point have even some fundamental ideas and interpretations of the Bible and my beliefs. Until I was in university. And then during the time I was in university, I started to reflect on my idea of belief, but I wasn't thinking to become an atheist. I realized that my mom died when I was 4 years old. And I remember I started questioning as a child, like, well, they're saying she went to heaven, but I don't understand, like, why is she going to heaven? Like, she just had us. And I didn't understand it at the time, but eventually I was able to convince myself that, everybody I love and I respect so much and I admire and I think are the most intelligent people in my life all believe in God. So there must be God. Like, it's insane, like, to even question that. And I was, when you're in school, your mates will also say, hey, I hear if you question where God is or if he exists or something, you're going to go crazy. So, of course, everybody's afraid to get some form of mental illness. So, you try not to question it, even if it occurs to you. So it was after I graduated from the university, I was, a lot of my friends at the time were Eastern Europeans that were working in Ghana, expats and stuff. And so I realized that most of them are not religious. And even though they were baptized in Orthodox Christian faiths and other denominations. So I felt it was my duty as a Christian, especially a confirmed Catholic, to use my gift of the Holy Spirit, which I believe was research and knowing more and being objective in my thinking, to gather all the evidence. If there's God, there's lots of evidence out there. There must be a lot of people who's written about all this evidence. So I'm just going to try to get that evidence so I can tell people about it. And unfortunately for me, that was when I started paying more attention to documentaries. I didn't really read a book or anything. I didn't know about Richard Dawkins or any of these other writers, but I was just paying more attention to history lessons or history programs from especially when Christ's time or Jewish history or, other religions, and paying attention to scientific understanding of how life came to be and all that. And that was just totally contradictory to what I have grown to know, even though I'm educated. I wasn't really, evolution and all those things were not emphasized in school. So I was, I was really, really shocked. I went through I think all the stages of grief, thinking about, oh my God, I can't believe this. Goodness me. So all this time, I thought we were, created and the world was created and this and that and Jesus and Mary and Joseph. And are you telling me all that is not true? Like, no, it can't be. And so it was very difficult. It was like a whole year. It didn't take a day. It took about a whole year questioning and being scared to wake up and go crazy or go mad, and being scared that I'm going to be struck with lightning. God is going to send lightning to strike me because I'm doubting, and all that. But eventually I came to accept that, yes, I think I'm the kind of person, I believed in God because I thought it was true. So if it's not true, then there's no point in me believing in it. But how do I come out to the rest of my family? And my younger sister was the one who, at the time, I was becoming atheist. She was becoming more evangelical from her Christian faith, my young Monica. So Monica even went further into it, but at the end, she also made up her own mind about her beliefs that, yeah, she's beginning to doubt as well. And I remember the kind of backlash she had for even leaving the Catholic Church to another denomination was a very big problem. So I was even more scared to come out, and I was like, no, this is going to kill my grandmother than anyone else. And I was more scared of hurting her feelings or, probably even her health. And she is somebody I love more than anything in my life. So I was more scared to come out to hurt my family. I was more scared of the repercussions that could come to me as a person and what my society, what everybody's going to think, that I'm crazy or something. But so it took me 5 years. And luckily for me, that was just when my sister was one of the first of the 11 people that met from social media, started coming out with their atheism on Twitter. And then they met in person. And she was like, Ross, you have to come see this. You would not believe it. We are not alone. There are other Ghanaians like us. And I was like, what? You're like, yeah. And I go to the meeting, and meeting after meeting, I even met one British guy who had lived in Ghana for about 9 years at that time, who helped to, encouraging us to organize because he was a member of Humanists UK. So he gave us the idea that, you can organize, right? You don't have to just meet. You can come together and form something that could mean something to you guys and to Ghana. And yeah, that's how it started. And so Humanists International at the time heard about us and that there was this young crop of Ghanaians that were coming together and meeting regularly. And so they wanted to support us to organize the first conference in 2012, just a few months after we started meeting. And the meeting was very highly successful. We had humanists that was the first time I met Dr. Leo Igwe. Leo Igwe was then doing his PhD from a German university. He was doing a thesis on witchcraft accusations in Ghana. And so, yeah, we got to meet him. We got to meet people from Nigeria, other people from Nigeria, from Sierra Leone, from Liberia. And by the end of the 2-3 day conference, I was like amazed that not only am I not alone as a Ghanaian, but there are other Africans like myself who do not believe, and they all came from different ways. And so I was like, yeah, I have a community. I'm safe. I know I'm not crazy. So I can come out. And that was my coming out story that I eventually started coming out. I stopped pretending to be Christian. When they asked me, why are you not going to church? Because I don't believe in God. And I could just say it out like that. And if it wasn't for the organization like, Humanists International, Young Humanists International, if it wasn't for my fellow other Africans coming around me, some still closeted, but at least knowing that they've got my back, that I have people I can talk to, that I have people I can share with, I would not have been able to come out. And from there, I was able to come out and now and get so many positions. Since 2014, I've been elected for so many positions in the youth section, and now twice elected as the first African woman board member at Humanists International. Yeah.
And congratulations on that. So what is it like being openly humanist in Ghana today? It sounds like it's becoming more accepted, more common than when you were growing up.
Yes, it's not easy. I'm sorry. It's not like my life is like, I'm so happy and everything is lovely. No, it's not easy at all. Still, I would say that meeting other African or other Ghanaian humanists and hearing their journeys, their stories, I realize that I'm even more privileged. Some are more privileged than me and are freer, but I'm also a lot more privileged than a lot of us. A lot of people have to pretend they are going to church or something just to come to our meetings. Like a lot of people cannot come out to their own parents for fear of being thrown out of their house and things like that. a lot of discrimination goes on. People don't trust you. And I faced that a lot. I felt it because I started losing friends. A lot of people just didn't want to associate with me, or they wouldn't want to, come close to me because of all this idea that if you're not for God, you are against God. And for them, that's a very dangerous person who, if you're not for God. And so, and they don't trust your morality. They don't trust your ethics. So, we have a lot of superstition in this part of the world, that you could cause illness to somebody if you're of the devil or if you're satanic. And if you're not of God, it's like Satan is the right, direct opposite. If you don't believe in God, then you must be a satanic. There's no in between. There's no gray areas. There's no question about it. That's how most of us have been indoctrinated. And I used to be one of them. So that's why I even understand it. But how do I navigate through this country, And finding jobs has not been easy, especially for me who is out there. And everyone knows I'm atheist, I'm feminist, I'm for gay rights. This is just not what people want to associate themselves with in Ghana. So it's really difficult, even to date, to find some, a partner or something. It's really, really difficult. Nobody wants to know you. Somebody might meet you and say they are in love with you, and this has not happened to me, but it's happened to a lot of people. I know where you can date somebody for years, and then when it comes to taking the next step, it becomes complicated, and the family is not going to allow their child or to marry somebody who is not religious. Sometimes they use the reason that they don't want their grandchildren to be non-religious. They don't want their grandchildren to be having thoughts. They want their children and their grandchildren to continue to live in the faith that they know. It's already difficult, especially if it's a Muslim. A lot of the Muslims, not all of them, but a lot of the Muslims would, even if you are Christian, you're supposed to change your religion. So when you are definitely non-religious, they can't trust you. What's your ethics like? Then how do you how do you become a good person? Like, because they believe that it's their Bible, it's their Quran, it's their beliefs and their faith and their even traditional worship that guides them on what to do and what not to do. So if you say you don't believe, then that means you have no compass on what is right and what is wrong. And so if you think about it that way, you understand why nobody wants to be close to you. People think you're going to infect them. People think you're going to either lead them astray from their faith. And it's written in the Bible that thou shalt not yoke with unbelievers. So some of them will coach you. Even finding speakers to some of our events, when they find out we are atheists, they don't want to have anything to do with us. Sometimes you even want to donate something or do some charity. Even the people who need the help, when they find out you are atheist, they don't want to take anything from you because they think it's tainted with some devilish thing, So it's not easy living in Ghana like that, for finding a job, going to school, finding a partner to settle with, and all those are things that, every human being would like to have those opportunities if, and rights to that. But unfortunately, it's really, really difficult. It's really, really difficult. Some of our members have been accused of witchcraft and taken to prayer camps and beaten and all that and abused. Yeah, some people have been thrown out of their homes by their own families and things like that. And especially if you're not financially independent, I'm sorry, you're at the mercy of your family telling you that, well, if you believe in God, your life will be better. Especially if you're facing difficulties in any way, they will tell you that you have to go back to the church, you have to go back to the mosque before your life will become better. And so there's a lot of pressure with us in Ghana. Yes, so far, luckily, we haven't had any issues of death or imprisonment, but we are not, we see a lot of that push coming from the conservatives into our laws and our legislation that, it's coming, especially with this current anti-LGBT bill that we've been fighting. It's and humanists in Ghana are all supporters of the LGBT community. And right now, that bill is threatening to jail and imprison allies for up to 10 years. Especially for me, I'm one of the faces that is always on TV, radio, discussing these issues. So definitely I'll be one of the biggest targets when the bill is passed, but hopefully it's not passed. We are really fighting against it.
Yeah, it's incredibly brave, everything that you're doing and the rest of the team there in Ghana to raise awareness of these issues. And hopefully, by the sounds of it, you're making life more tolerable and tolerant for the next generation. So thank you for everything, Roslyn. Just before we go, one last quick question. This can be, it can be a serious one or a fun one. What is something that you have changed your mind about recently?
Wow, I've changed my mind about recently. No, yeah, definitely. I've been unlearning a lot of things. Because I grew up with not just my religious beliefs, but cultural and societal and superstition, a lot of superstition. So those I've been able to, debunk by myself and start thinking logically about a lot of things. But I mean, and I'm still on that journey. A lot of us, what we thought we knew was true, now we have to question every single thing, and find out like, where is that coming from, and also even check our biases when it comes to our ideas of what is more logical, what is more rational or not. So yes, nothing comes to mind or jumps to my mind right now, but definitely, I know that there's been a lot of things that we keep learning. We have those aha moments, from time to time, like, wow, oh, I didn't know, like, things like that. And I think that's why it's more important that, for people who were brought up or grew up in parts of the world where you were not even indoctrinated, it's good to have conversations with them so that I also get to see that perspective, because there'll be things that I wouldn't understand where you are coming from, and because I didn't grow up with those ideas, and vice versa. So I think that that's why I'm really excited. I was really excited yesterday by the program we had, the event we had online yesterday, because listening to different perspectives, listening to what happens or caters to other people around the world is so important. And yes, we Humanists in Africa, and I've been working with and for African humanists for years now, and listening to different listening to different perspectives, because we are all in Africa, but most of us are very ignorant about who each other is in Africa. That's why a lot of people don't know. I don't know how South Africans live. I don't know how Zambians live. I don't know how Kenyans, Tanzanians. We are all very different. In fact, in Africa, places like Ghana is so diverse. We have over 50 languages. You understand? We have different cultures, completely different cultures, the way we dress, the way we eat, the way we do everything. Nigeria is the same, has so many more languages and tribes and clans, and it's so complicated. But we're all able to live peacefully and try to tolerate each other. And what I have been working on is trying to debunk all that superstition that is holding us back as a people. Because Africa can move forward if we are more enlightened, if we put aside a lot of our traditional beliefs that have no logical backing. Because a lot of what our ancestors did, and I believe in our ancestry, has a lot of wise wisdom, I will say wise sayings, and a lot of wisdom in how they live their lives. But also a lot of it is very outdated, and a lot of it is not to our times. The misogyny must stop. We must get rid of it. And certain practices that enable or encourage misogyny must go. The patriarchy should fall. We are, a lot of collecting bride prices for women, and this idea that a man is the head of the house and men are rare, like jewels or something like that. This is all in our language to say that women are not as special or are not equal to men. And it's even difficult to discuss these issues with even the most educated people in this country. The idea of sexual orientation. We were not homophobic before colonization. The British brought homophobia to our country. The law we have is a British law. It's not our law. It's not our ancestors' law. But at the end of the day, what is happening is people can remember beyond 400 years ago. And so their idea is, no, we don't like it. That's not what we are. That is not our culture. No, that is not our culture. Homophobia was a British culture. That is not our culture. So we need to go back and find how our ancestors used to live peacefully with trans people, gay, lesbians, bisexual people, and questioning people. Like, we have all these things in our culture, but we didn't have labels for them. And so these are some of the things that we need humanists around across Africa to be fighting on. The idea that, if thunder, lightning strikes somewhere, then it's the gods, of the river or the gods of the seas that are causing. No, there's a scientific reason and a scientific perfect explanation for why there is lightning, for why there's rain, thunderstorms, and things like that, for why somebody died. And so you shouldn't accuse your grandmother, your ailing grandmother especially, of witchcraft and lynch her or abuse her, things like that. So there's so much work and learning for all of us to do, and we are all still on that journey. Yeah.
And you're leading the way. Roslyn Mould, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and hear about all the great work you're doing at Humanists International and in Ghana and across Africa. So have a wonderful World Humanist Day and speak soon.
Same to you. Thank you so much.